Hi, everyone. Welcome to Naturally Immune for Life. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much. First of all, first thoughts and prayers go out to the people of Venezuela, um, and Japan and California. Very horrific situation developing there, and I'll be keeping my eye on it. Um, Secondly, I asked my husband to refresh my memory about old Vilfredo Pareto, and apparently I forgot he was an accountant. And however, the part about the peace was true. He discovered that 80% of the wealth was held by 20% of the people. And then he went on to discover that his pea plants produced similar results. The difference being, of course, that in my opinion, one would have a transcendental good, and the other one would involve human manipulation. So, of course, you could probably reverse those stats where you could loot 80% of the wealth from, or the 20% could loot 80% of the wealth from 20 80% of the people. But that wasn't my point. My point is that in my 80-20 rule, it has to be attached to an ultimate good or a supreme good. And the supreme good in medicine was, of course, first, do no harm. And that was the first principle. So, and then I also wanted to say, um, I was trying to think of an analogy of how I could describe the word salad conundrum that you find yourself in when you're a blogger on YouTube, and that would be, everybody knows you can't make any claims. It's on every supplement bottle. However, I found an example, and that would be scurvy. Now, scurvy was first elucidated in the 1700s, and the naval surgeon who first wrote about it discovered that if the sailors had lemons and limes and things like that, they would not get scurvy. And then, so lemons and limes prevented scurvy, but then it wasn't until 1932 that vitamin C was finally, what's the word? Finally, fully explained and given its name, and it's a vitamin, etc. And then you could assume that vitamin C not only prevented scurvy, but cured scurvy. And that's the word they use. Vitamin C prevents and cures scurvy. But for some reason, you're not allowed to say the same thing about certain things today. And that makes no sense. So, and then the other thing was basically, if all opinions are equal, to hell with it. I don't care. I wouldn't see any point in picking up a book or learning anything if all opinions were equal. But whatever. Okay, so this week is, I think you'll find it helpful, but I can't fully elucidate anything. But I'll get to that at the end. And it is Human Milk Oligosaccharides, How Breast Milk Teaches the Immune System Tolerance. Tolerance is the ability of the immune system to see, for lack of a better word. HMOs influence specialized immune cells called dendritic cells, which play a central role in determining how the immune system responds to the world. For many years, scientists believed that human milk oligosaccharides primarily served as food for beneficial bacteria in the infant gut. While this important function remains true, recent research has revealed that HMOs do much more than nourish the microbiome, that is, serve as a prebiotic. They can also interact directly with immune cells and help shape the developing immune system. Numerous studies have shown that breastfeeding is associated with a reduced risk of infectious diseases, inflammatory disorders, asthma, allergies, and certain autoimmune conditions. Among the many bioactive compounds found in breast milk, human milk oligosaccharides are believed to be major contributors to these protective effects. HMOs are a highly diverse group of complex carbohydrates with more than 1,000 distinct structures identified to date. These oligosaccharides consist of both short chain and long chain molecules, typically present in an approximate ratio of 9:1, creating a unique biological system that supports both microbial and immune development during early life. So they do more than just serve as a prebiotic. A 2019 study published in the European Journal of Immunology demonstrated that HMOs influence specialized immune cells called dendritic cells, which play a central role in determining how the immune system responds to the world. These findings provide new insight into why breastfeeding is associated with lower rates of allergies, autoimmune diseases, and inflammatory disorders later in life. Dendritic cells are the immune system's programmers. Dendritic cells act as sentinels throughout the body. They constantly sample their environment, detecting microbes, food proteins, and other substances. Once they encounter something new, they present that information to T cells, helping determine whether the immune system should launch an attack or develop tolerance. This process is especially important during infancy. Newborns are suddenly exposed to countless bacteria, viruses, and environmental antigens after birth. Their immune systems must learn to distinguish between harmful threats and harmless substances without triggering excessive inflammation. One special type of dendritic cell, known as tolerogenic dendritic cell, promotes immune balance. These cells help generate regulatory T cells, which act as the immune system's brakes, preventing unnecessary immune reactions and excessive inflammation. And If you remember the 2025 Nobel Prize, in that paper they specifically said preventing catastrophic autoimmune destruction, I believe was the word. HMOs promote immune tolerance. Researchers isolated a natural mixture of HMOs from human milk and exposed human dendritic cells to these compounds in the laboratory. They discovered that HMOs encourage dendritic cells to adopt a semi-mature regulatory state rather than a fully inflammatory one. The HMO-treated cells produced increased amounts of important anti-inflammatory signaling molecules, including interleukin-10, IL-10, interleukin-27, IL-27. Both cytokines are known to support immune tolerance and help control inflammation. At the same time, HMOs did not significantly increase production of inflammatory cytokines such as interleukin-12, IL-12, and tumor necrosis factor alpha, TNFA, which are commonly associated with aggressive immune responses. This combination of increased regulatory signals and limited inflammatory activity suggests that HMOs help educate the immune system to remain balanced during early life. The research protecting against excessive inflammation. The researchers also investigated what happens when immune cells encounter inflammatory stimuli. They exposed dendritic cells to lipopolysaccharide, LPS, a bacterial component that normally triggers strong inflammatory responses. As expected, LPS caused dendritic cells to become highly activated and release inflammatory cytokines. However, when HMOs were added alongside LPS, the inflammatory response was significantly reduced. HMOs suppressed the production of IL-12, IL-6, and TNFA while maintaining elevated levels of regulatory cytokines such as IL-10. In other words, HMOs did not shut down immunity entirely. Instead, they helped prevent excessive inflammation while preserving immune balance. HMOs increase regulatory T cells. Perhaps the most important finding was the effect of HMOs on T cell development. Dendritic cells treated with HMOs were significantly more likely to induce regulatory T cells from naive T cells. Naive T cells are immature immune cells that have not yet encountered a specific antigen and are awaiting activation to develop into specialized T cell populations. Regulatory T cells are critical for preventing autoimmune reactions and maintaining tolerance to beneficial microbes, foods, and environmental substances. The study found that these TREGs were not only increased in number, but were also functionally active, capable of suppressing excessive immune responses. This finding provides a potential explanation for why breastfeeding has been linked to lower risks of asthma, allergies, inflammatory bowel disease, and autoimmune conditions. I do not want to lose my voice. A direct link between breast milk and immune development. The study also identified two receptors, DC sign and TLR4 that appear to help dendritic cells recognize HMOs. Through these interactions, HMOs can directly influence immune cell behavior independently of their effects on the microbiome. These discoveries highlight the remarkable complexity of human milk. HMOs are not simply nutrients or prebiotics, they are bioactive molecules that actively participate in immune education. By promoting regulatory dendritic cells, increasing IL-10 production, expanding regulatory T cells, and reducing excessive inflammation. HMOs help establish a tolerance during one of the most critical periods in human development. HMOs can begin influencing gut bacteria and immune cells within days, naturally. As soon as the child comes out, he begins eating and being exposed to the environment. Measurable microbiome changes occur within 1 to 4 weeks, and broader immune adaptations likely they do develop over several months and continued exposure. In breastfed infants, this process begins immediately after birth and contributes to immune programming throughout early life. And that begins around probably 3 months, when it begins immediately, but definitely after 3 months when foods begin to be introduced. As researchers continue to uncover the many functions of HMOs, it's becoming increasingly clear that these unique components of breast milk play a fundamental role in building a resilient and balanced immune system that can benefit health throughout life. I have an evidence-based timeline from this paper, but it's behind a published paywall below, and the source of this is Human Milk Oligosaccharides promote immune tolerance via direct interactions with human dendritic cells. So, the mysteries of HMOs are being unlocked, and there's 5 available now for consumers, and in infant formula, they began with 1, which I think was 2 FL, I believe, and that is the most abundant HMO in breast milk, supposedly. So, okay. And then I'd also like to say with this this PDF, I did not want to add a shopping cart to this site. I have a shopping cart on another one of my sites, and then you can click on this image here and be taken to the explanation of how that's occurring. So you don't think I'm I'm trying to pull a fast one by sending you to another link sending you the shopping cart itself is on PayPal, but the download is in a shopping cart on my other site. So that's what you're actually getting linked to. I just don't want to deal with it. It's hard enough adding a shopping cart app to a site, and it takes a long time to learn and to get it to look right and all of that kind of stuff. and I just don't feel like dealing with it on this site. I have a Shopify for my other YouTube channel, and I have a shopping cart on my other site also connected to my other YouTube channel, which is a creative channel, and you probably wouldn't be interested. But nevertheless, that's my main that stems from my main job, and this, as you know, is not um, this is not my main career in life. Okay, everyone. So I thank you again, and hopefully this will not get flagged. And I gave you as much information as I could about how long you should be expecting to use HMOs if you wanted to try them by going by the timeline in an infant utilizing the same substances in breast milk. Okay, all right. Thanks so much for your time, and I'll see you next time. You have a great day and a great week. Bye.